Thank you very much, William, for that kind introduction. Thank you to everyone for coming. I'm going to share my screen now. It's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be able to present today. And I hope that what I have to say and share with you will be of great interest. I'm also hoping that this presentation isn't just going to be me speaking, but we can have quite a bit of interaction in the chat. So I'm going to be asking for you all to write responses to questions, etc., and look forward to seeing what you have to say. So without further ado, let me begin. So I am going to be exploring today communities of practice and sustainable strategies for continuing professional development, that's CPD, in English language teaching. And before I start, I have a couple of questions for you all. What is a community of practice? Could you write in the chat what you think a community of practice is? If you have come across it before, that would be very useful. Community of practice. What do you understand by that? Please write your responses in the chat. And then the second question I have is what is CPD? So, what is continuing professional development? Thank you, Enrique, for kicking us off. Enrique Malca says community of practice is a kind of collaborative community. And we have Umberto there, a space to interact with teachers as well as students. Yanira says it's a place where each member can share their experience in a collaborative environment. And we have Jaida, a group of people who share collaborative work. So lots of great answers there. So that's community of practice. And I'm going to give you a definition in a minute. It involves three elements. So if you want to have a go at guessing what those three elements are that are involved in the community of practice, that would be interesting. Carmen Cecilia Vega said, could it be teachers exchanging ideas to support each other? You're very close, Carmen. That is definitely part of it. Percy, a group of teachers who interact with each other in order to get better benefits in the teaching and learning process. So there's a lot of very good ideas coming through in the chat now. What about CPD? What about continuing professional development? Do we have any? I'm just scrolling through your answers now. It's great to see so many people answering. That's great. So sharing interests and experiences about a topic, group of educators who share a passion for learning and improving their teaching. All great answers. Excellent. So I'm going to move on to the definitions of those two things. I'm going to start with continuing professional development. So what is CPD? Well, the British Council defines continuing professional development, CPD, as a planned, continuous, and lifelong process whereby teachers try to develop their personal and professional qualities and to improve their knowledge, skills, and practice, leading to their empowerment, the improvement of their agency, and the development of their organization and their pupils. So that's quite a long definition there. In other words, this is ongoing professional learning that helps you, the teacher, improve your skills and knowledge and allows you to stay current with and interested in teaching innovations. That's basically it. So a lot of what you are saying in the chat here, Jesus, for example, the way of getting fresh and to teach better. Exactly, Jesus, sharing experiences. and never stop learning. Yes, lifelong learning is has a lot to do with CPD. So, effective CPD is concrete, it's very specific, it's relevant to your context, and it's aligned with your needs as a teacher, and the needs of your learners. It's situated, so it's all about being what is needed in your context, in your school, in your classroom. And it's also most of the time collaborative. So CPD often has a lot to do with what you can learn from other people, other teachers, other practitioners. Now, the British Council has a number of different tools available to help you with continuing professional development, including the CPD framework, which is shown on the screen at the moment. Now, this is a new, revised, refreshed version of the CPD framework. So you're seeing it before it's actually published at that link. So it's not actually on the link that you can see at the screen at the moment, but it will be hopefully next week or the week after be available, and a brochure detailing all of the professional practices. So this framework that we have developed enables teachers to self-assess where you are on your teaching journey to help you determine what it is that you need to focus on as far as professional development is concerned. And this is our new CPD framework, but I'd just like again to ask people, how many of you have used the previous CPD framework that the British Council have produced? It's over 10 years old. Have you um, have you been able to use that framework before, or any other framework for professional development? There are lots of different frameworks that other organizations have produced. And Jonathan, I'm trying to speak as loud as I can here, but please let me know if the volume is a little bit low and I can start shouting. You can hear. Okay, Cecilia. So I think, Jonathan, you need to turn up your volume. Okay. So has anyone used this framework or any of the other British Council's frameworks before? If so, which ones? And if you have used one of the frameworks before, did you find it useful? If you haven't used a framework before, then I'm going to explain a little bit about how it works, and hopefully it's something that you'll find very useful. So let's look in more detail at the first half of this new framework. It has 11 professional practices and 4 stages of development. So the professional practices, this is basically what the British Council consider to be relevant if you want to be good at teaching across a number of different contexts. It recognises the need for teachers to be lifelong learners that we mentioned before, and it can also be used at any point in your teaching career as a tool to help you to understand where you are where it comes to the skills and knowledge of teaching, and what you can do to improve those skills and knowledge to help you plan your own professional development. So these 11 professional practices provide a description of these knowledge, skills, behaviors, and attributes that you can develop and put into practice in your own classroom context. You can start anywhere on the framework. It's not meant to be specific to starting at one particular thing. And here we have 4 of those professional practices. Knowing your subject. So if the subject that you're teaching is primary English teaching, secondary English teaching, CLIL, that's content and learning content and language integrated learning, or any other type of English language teaching, that's what that is about. There's planning lessons and courses, which should be self-explanatory. Understanding my context. So what is it about where you're teaching? And that could be in the country, it could be in the region, in the city, in the village, in the rural school where you teach. And also, are you teaching online? Are you teaching in a classroom with a lot of students or a small number of students, etc.? And then understanding and developing my professional identity. So, who are you as a teacher? What kind of things do you need to know about? And what do you need to develop to become better as a teacher? So, those are four of the professional practices of the 11 in the whole framework. And then we have four stages of development. We have awareness, understanding, engagement, and integration. So awareness, if you're aware of one of the of any of the professional practices, that means you're at the outer ring in your stage of development as a teacher. That means you know about this professional practice, but perhaps you don't include it into your teaching practice. Then we have understanding, and this means that you know about the professional practice, you know what it is, why it's important, and you've also started to include it when it comes to teaching. Then we have engagement, where you demonstrate your understanding and confidence in this professional practice when it comes to your work. So you're quite comfortable using this professional practice or with this knowledge, with these skills in your teaching, and you use it on a daily basis. Finally, we have integration, and that means you demonstrate a high level of competence in this professional practice, and it consistently informs what you do in the classroom and outside of it when it comes to anything else you do with teaching. If you are, if you consider yourself, for example, a particular professional practice as integrated, that often means that you would be confident in helping, in supporting, in teaching and training another teacher about that professional competence. So here we have the four stages of development and four of the professional practices on the CPD framework. If we look at the remaining seven professional practices, managing the lesson and assessing learning, understanding my learners, using inclusive practices, using digital technologies, using multilingual practices, and using 21st century or core skills. Those are some of the others. And again, most of those I think are pretty self-explanatory. Now, for each of the professional practices, you, the teacher, as I said before, you can mark the stage of development. So you end up with a kind of, usually it's a jagged kind of circle, yeah, marked on this framework, which gives you an overview of how you are developing as a teacher. And then you can see very clearly which of the professional practices you might want to focus upon to improve. And this is up to you. It could be that you want to focus on something that you don't know much about, or it could be that you want to you want one of the professional practices to become more integrated within your teaching practice. It's really up to you. And the idea is that this is a framework, a tool that you can use as a teacher to try and understand and reflect upon what it is that you need to do when it comes to your CPD. Now, as far as your development is concerned, you can do this alone or you can do it with colleagues. And as mentioned before, CPD is usually more valuable, more effective, and more fun when it's collaborative. Like today, we're together learning about this. It's more fun than you just being on your own and trying to learn about it without anyone else. It's usually more valuable, more effective when collaborative. And this is where a community of practice comes in. Now, I will talk a little bit about the community of practice in a minute. But first, let me talk a little bit about where I am as a teacher, for example, with respect to two of these professional practices. So one of the thing one of the professional practices here that I've always had a special interest in was in using digital technology. Now, that is something that is very integrated into my practice, which I'm very comfortable with. And I'm also very happy to support and train other teachers when it comes to using digital technologies. Now, if I look at another aspect of teaching there, using inclusive practices, and within that professional practice, there's a lot of detail when it comes to, for example, special educational needs and teaching students who have special educational needs or disabilities in the classroom. Well, that is something I think you probably agree with me about, that there's so much involved in that. It's very difficult to become an expert in all of those special educational needs and disabilities when it comes to understanding how best to cater for students. There's so much that I feel definitely that you can learn about this, so many aspects of this, that it's difficult to be an expert even in one particular area. Now, this is an area I feel is best for teachers to learn more about in general as an ongoing thing. So I try to learn more about this aspect of teaching and learning whenever I can. I read about it, I speak to other teachers about it, I attend webinars, etc. But I think where it becomes particularly interesting is when you have specific students with specific special educational needs or disabilities that you need to support. So if you have a student or several students with a particular need, special educational need in your classroom, then that's probably the moment that you need to focus upon developing that aspect of your knowledge and skill set and understanding best how to support those students with those special educational needs or disabilities. And often the best way of doing that is by contacting with other teachers who have experience of teaching students with the particular special educational need or disability. And as Jonathan says, for example, students with ADHD, ADD, etc. There's so much that you can do to support and help them. And the best way, I think, of you trying to find out ideas of how you can do that is to contact with other teachers. And this is where a community of practice can be very, very useful. So let's move on and look at communities of practice. So you put in the chat a lot of ideas of what communities of practice were or are and what they involve. Let me look at the definition now, which I think you captured all of those aspects of it. But let me look at what the literature says about this. And it says a community of practice is a group of people with a shared interest, not only teachers, but for our benefit, it's going to be we're going to be talking about English teachers. But a community of practice is a group of people with a shared interest who learn from one another. And it includes three key elements. One is a domain, a shared interest. Now, that could be as broad as English language teaching and learning, or it could be more defined. It could be particularly, for example, teaching ADHD children, for example, as we talked about before. That could be a shared domain for a small community of practice. It could be supporting special educational needs students. And Yolanda, it's similar to a learning community. These terms are often used interchangeably. The community of practice specifically, and not necessarily a learning community has this, has three aspects to it. The shared domain that I mentioned, a community, a group of people who come together on a regular basis to learn from each other, and a practice. And the practice means shared experiences. So, in other words, a community of practice that focused upon supporting ADHD students would be a group of people, a group of teachers of English who come together as in a community of practice would involve a community of English language teachers, some of whom have experience in supporting ADHD students, and the shared interest is that. So you may not have experience, but you want to gain experience by sharing, by listening from the other students, other teachers, for example. So examples of communities of practice, well, we have lots that you may not think that you belong to many or any, but you probably do. If you work in a school where there is a staff room and you regularly come together with other language teachers of the school or other teachers of the school, and you talk about teaching and you share your experience, well, that's an example of a community of practice. Also, you might have a teacher book club. These have become popular now. A group of teachers who read something related to education and come together and discuss it. That would be an example of an English language teacher community of practice. Online forums, discussion groups, etc., etc. If you have other examples of communities of practice that you know about or are part of, please write them into the chat and share them with everybody here. This is a good example, a good way that we can share our knowledge, and we're forming, if you like, today a community of practice that have come together to share our experience and knowledge about learning more about English language teaching, etc. So Roxana has said a foreign language staff at a school. Yeah, foreign language staff at a school, that would be the community. That when does that become a community of practice? Well, if those foreign language staff come together on a regular basis, either informally in breaks before, after school, or formally for set training sessions, and they share experience. So it isn't just a training session where someone is invited to talk about their experience. If the foreign language teachers at the school have the opportunity to share their own experience and their own practice, then that would be a community of practice, definitely. Yeah, so I think everybody is getting that. So a community of practice for teachers involves a group of practitioners who share a passion and who get together, who learn on a regular basis to learn from each other. Communities of practice provide support for the continuing professional development of teachers. They exist for teachers to help them develop the skills, knowledge, and awareness. And the success of a community of practice is generally comes down to the enthusiasm and passion of the members who come together. So it can't just be one person who is dictating an agenda and inviting someone to speak or to do training, for example. It's about a group of people with similar passions and interests, and they're all interested in sharing their experience together. So why join a community of practice? What benefits can a community of practice give a teacher of English? If you're part of a community of practice, what do you get from that? So if you are part of a community of practice, and I can see that people are saying that they are, what kind of things do you get from being part of that community of practice? What aspects, what benefits do you get from coming together in this way rather than just attending a training session, for example, which is another form of professional development? What kind of benefits do you get? I'm going to look at some, but if you want to put some of your ideas into the chat, that would be great. Carola, Patricia, we help one another. We gain more experience, says Yanira. Improving teaching and learning process, says Percy. My teaching experience gets refreshed, and says Jonathan, and in particular, I don't feel alone. Exactly. There's so much that teachers coming together and sharing their experience can actually give each other. And Flo brings up a particular challenge that happens sometimes, that we have a big problem when some teachers don't like or don't want to share anything. Yes, Flo, it is true. But usually, in my, fortunately, I think in my experience, that isn't a very common thing. Is that most teachers, when they come together, are very happy to share their experiences. And I think we can see a lot of people sharing that, um, as Karen said, know-how, standardizing teaching skills, etc. So there's a lot of examples of what teachers can do and what teachers can share and the benefits of belonging to a community of practice. So let's have a look at some other ones that are definitely defined again if you read about communities of practice, these are some of the things that they say are the benefits of belonging to one. So first of all, and I've mentioned this briefly, communities of practice offers they offer an alternative to training courses. So a lot of training events, if they're done in a particular way, tend to be short. It's easy to forget what has been trained, what has been learned, and there's often little chance to try out the ideas in the classroom. If the training events are also top down, so if they're decided for the teachers what you're going to be learning about, then often they're not as relevant than if the teachers who are attending the training decide what is going to be learnt about. Now, communities of practice are all about the people who are doing the same job, who have the experience and want to learn about how to do what they're doing uh, better, coming together, working together, and learning from each other. Communities of practice are there an example of peer learning. They don't require an expert to direct the members. You don't need an invited guest to tell you about something. Now, I'm not saying that isn't a good thing. It's often exactly what is needed. If teachers need to learn about something in particular, and there is access to an expert who can help train and help teachers learn about it, then this is also a good thing. But I think what I'm trying to say is that this type of training, if it's given by an expert, isn't the only way of learning. It isn't the only way of developing as a teacher. And there's so much you can get from belonging to a community of practice. So, community of practice is an example of peer learning, and everybody is usually working towards a similar goal and learning from each other. In a community of practice, teachers can share ideas and opinions and support each other's development. Participants usually talk about the real challenges that the teachers have in the classroom, the issues that you may have on a practical basis that you require support and help with, ways of teaching and learning, and you can share questions and answers on specific topics that you decide together. Now, teachers can discuss, they can plan, they can practice, and they can research activities connected with a particular topic in a community of practice. It's a chance for teachers to work together and share ideas, plans, or techniques and include these and try them out and then try them out in the classroom with students and then share what happened and get advice about how to do things in a different way or in an improved way with teachers who are also sharing these, trying out these activities. Now, communities among practitioners can create a direct link between learning and engagement in practice and therefore performance. A community of practice combines into one social learning process the professional development of its members and the continuous development of organizational capabilities. And keep the ideas coming in the chat. There's some great things here that I'm going to definitely capture afterwards as well. Herman, for example, thinks that a community of practice is a place where different teachers and students can interact and generate learning. That's interesting that you involve the students in that. I hadn't thought about that, but often students can be an essential part of the learning that goes on when it comes to professional development. So definitely, Herman, that's a good point. So, a community practice is also a living context that that can help teachers build relationships to enable mutual engagement and collective learning. And the practice anchors the learning in what teachers do. So it's not about theory, it's not about language learning that might be happening in another part of the world. It's very much situated in your own classroom, your own context with your own learners, the age group, the level of learners, the cultural background, etc. This is one of the benefits of learning through a community of practice. And the practice anchors the learning in what teachers do, both as a source of lived challenges and as a place to try new things. And the practice is about making the real experience of teaching something you can discuss. You can have something that has real relevance and enable you to make a difference where it counts with your learners in the classroom. So that's a community of practice. Now, I'm going to show you an example of an online community of practice that, if you don't know, I think you will find it very useful. It is Teaching English, the website from the British Council. This is perhaps not what a lot of you may well be familiar with this, and I see that some people are already saying they are familiar with it, which is great. And it has lots of different resources for teachers, lesson plans, publications, and I'll look a little bit about that. But what it does have also is it forms it is a community of practice. And this is perhaps, even if you're using this website, you may not be aware of some of the aspects of the community of practice part of the British Council's Teaching English website, which I think you should know about and which can help you develop as teachers. So let's have a look at the resources first. So it has resources for teaching English, and it has resources related to the framework that I showed you before. So a lot of the sections, if you go to the professional development part of the website, are divided up into professional practices. So you can, when you choose a particular professional practice to develop as a teacher, you can come here and you can find articles, magazine, topics, teaching knowledge database, video tips, and other content to help you. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect that I mentioned before are resource books. So you have resource books on all aspects of teaching. They're free to download with ideas for class. You have lesson plans on a wide range of subjects, books that can help you with your classes. An example is the new activity book on a very hot topic at the moment, using artificial intelligence in the classroom, in the English language classroom. So how you can, this book will give you lots of activities of AI resources and activities that you can use. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect, a bit more academic, but if you're a teacher who likes to understand what the latest is in research, but you don't have access to journals or the time to go looking for journals, when a lot of case studies and research and insight is compiled on this website in various books and publications, and there are also there's research insight and ideas that are relevant to teachers. It's not just aimed at academic researchers, for example. They tends to kind of make the research more accessible for teachers, more relevant for practitioners. An example which you may or may not be know about, and you may or may not have been involved in. I'm sure that there are some of you here today that perhaps have actually been involved in these projects because they were very popular, are the exploratory action research projects that the British Council in Peru organised. And there was a lot of champion teachers out there that did classroom research with their own students and shared it. And there are publications that you can download that will help you look at what other teachers in Peru have done in their own classrooms, looking at specific problems that may well be relevant to your own context as well. So I do recommend, if you look at any of the research, those are some of the probably the books that you will find most interesting. Right. What else do we have? Well, we have the ELTRAs. So this is ELT Research Awards, English Language Teaching Research Awards, that are given annually to research projects that involves UK universities and another university in a country outside of the UK. It's an opportunity for researchers to get some grant money to go ahead and collaborate with a UK university, for example, on a particular issue, problem, or research project. And you may not be involved in a university, but you might find that some of these research projects look into things that are relevant to you. So worth looking at. Then we have lots of different teaching resources on the website. For example, we have resources for teaching primary. There are lesson plans, stories, poems, songs, activities, and teaching tools to help you teach primary school students English. We have the same for secondary. So if you teach secondary school students, there are lesson plans, stories, poems, activities, teaching tools. And there's a particular section here about lesson plans about UK history and literature that your students may find interesting, particularly if they want to do project work. Then we have, of course, teaching adults as well. If any of you are involved in teaching adults, there are lesson plans here, stories, poems, activities, teaching tools, and there's even lesson plans for teaching business English if anybody here today is involved in that. Then we have a regular series of webinars for teachers on all aspects of teaching English. So a bit like what's happening today, or these next 3 days, I think it is, where you have webinars of different people sharing ideas and teachers coming together to learn from each other that you're doing at the moment and that you'll be doing over the next 3 days. Well, these are regular events that are open not just to teachers in Peru, but teachers all over the world. And you can attend them. There's a series of them. The recordings are made so you can go and listen back to recordings if you're not able to attend live. So this again is an aspect of the community of practice where you have the opportunity to interact, as you're doing today in the chat, with different teachers, but these teachers are from very different parts of the world. You can find it from experts about the kind of common themes that all English teachers have, or some things that are specific to those teachers' specific context that may be of interest to you, and it reveals a different aspect of teaching and learning of English. There are also webinars for teacher educators. Now, if you are interested in perhaps using your knowledge and skills in helping train other teachers, this might be an area that you want to develop as. So it might be that you're a teacher with a lot of experience, or you know a lot about a particular professional practice, and you would like to help other teachers. Well, where do you get started? How do you become a teacher educator, a teacher trainer? Well, a good place to start is by looking at the section on the Teaching English website for teacher educators. You can attend these teacher trainer webinars live. You can go and listen to the recordings for aspects of teacher education that you're interested in, and you can develop an interest and a knowledge about what you need to do if you want to be a teacher educator. So either you may be a teacher educator already, and this could be a way of you developing your skills as a teacher educator, or if you're a teacher who's interested in becoming in the future a teacher educator, well, this is a way of you finding out more about what you need to do to be able to do that. And there are also opportunities for people to become involved here as well. So there's a whole section on the Teaching English website dedicated to teacher educators. There's a network of teacher educators. You can find other practicing teacher educators or other teachers who want to become teacher educators who are sharing lots of resources. There are opportunities to read about this there. So I do recommend that you go ahead and uh, look into this if teacher education is something that you're interested in. And I haven't included it here, but there's also, just as there's a framework for teachers, there's also a framework for teacher educators with different professional practices on that you can explore. If you are involved in school leadership as well, there's a framework for school leaders. And by school leaders, it might be you're a coordinator, a head of a school, or somewhat involved to a certain extent in the management of an academic institution or school. And there are things that you can help you with that, including the framework for school leaders as well. Right. So, as I mentioned before, what I've looked at principally so far on the website is all related to resources that can help you develop. Now, what about this website as a community of practice? Well, there are lots of opportunities for you to engage with other teachers online. It may be that you want to expand your horizons to look at and connect with other teachers outside of your own school, your own country, your own region, your own city. You want to start connecting and learning from teachers who are in other countries and other regions. You want them to understand what your concerns are, and you have things that you can share with them as well. Well, one way of doing it is to create an account. So the way to start with this website to become part of the community is it's free. You just create an account as I have done here. And if anyone wants to connect with me, you can do so on this website as well. And once you create an account, you can then start to leave comments under articles. You can connect in lots of different ways with teachers from all over the world. Once you've joined, you can become more involved in the community that is involved on the website, the Teaching English website. And there are already lots of Peruvian English teachers that are doing this. So you'll be in good company if you do this. Now, one of the interesting things, and I saw some people were mentioning in the chat that they've already taken courses. To become involved with the community, you can do things like read the magazine, you can look at the podcasts, but there are also other social networks outside of and linked to this website where you can connect with other teachers as well. If you're a teacher who likes using Instagram, for example, or Facebook or YouTube, then you will find Teaching English has a presence there. And that is often an easy way if you're already using those social networks to connect with other teachers and share ideas, but also to get a snapshot of some of the things that are happening within the community, or to get to become more aware of some of the resources that are available that the British Council is sharing. Right. Now, I mentioned courses, and one of the best ways of taking advantage of the Teaching English community of practice is by enrolling in one of the regular courses. There are courses being held every month, I think it is, throughout the year that can help you develop your skills. And these courses are often 4 weeks long, 6 weeks long. Perhaps you need to dedicate an hour and a half to 3 hours a week learning, but you can do it in very small stages. So you can perhaps spend 10, 15 minutes a day engaging with the content of a particular course, learning a bit more about it, half an hour if you like. And little by little, as the month goes on, you can actually learn about a particular subject. For example, here we've got two courses that are listed here. One, climate action in language education. So how can you bring aspects of the um, the changes that are happening in our climate that is affecting everyone, that students in particular are usually very concerned about. How can you bring that aspect into your classroom and combine it with learning and teaching English? Well, there's a course for you there that is available. There's another one, gender in language education. How you can raise awareness of your own teaching of the aspect of gender, or what kind of things can you do with students that can put a gender focus onto what you're teaching and what the students are learning. It is an example, that one, for example, of an aspect of EDI, of inclusive language teaching. And I talked earlier about the special educational needs. Well, this is another aspect of inclusive language teaching, how you can raise awareness of gender, how you as a teacher can start thinking about gender as a focus, for example. And that's a course. So there are lots of different courses. There are also courses about helping you as a teacher teach teenagers, help with speaking, with reading and writing activities as well. Lots of different things, really. So it's worth exploring. Keep an eye on those courses and join in the ones that you are interested in developing. Now, most of the connecting with others, with other teachers that happen on these courses happen through the British Council Teaching English Facebook group. And this again is free to join. And this is where you can find a very lively community of teachers to interact with. You can share ideas. There is lots of discussions going on a daily, on a weekly basis during the courses that are happening that are relevant to those courses. So you can learn a bit about a particular aspect of a course that you're doing, and then you can come together with other teachers here and answer some of the questions, the discussion questions that are posted in the forums here on the threads. You can connect with other teachers. There's nothing to stop you from then going away and connecting separately with a teacher that you have a particular affinity with, that you think you would be interested in learning from. And this is a great way if you're ever interested in, for example, becoming involved in interactive projects. So if you have a class of teenagers and you would like to connect with another teacher who has a similar class of teenagers about to do a joint project with, well, this is a great way of being able to meet other teachers, connect with them, and also to connect separately outside of the Facebook group, for example, outside of the community of practice. You can do it through the Teaching English website as well, of course, but Facebook is one way of doing it as well, Instagram another, etc. And then you can separately propose, for example, a joint project with that teacher and connect with them and become involved in that way. There are lots of ideas that you can get. And I think the starting point for doing those kinds of joint projects with teachers in other countries, other regions, other cultures, which is always a great thing to do with students to open up the world, open up and expose them to different cultures, etc., is to find another teacher who's interested, who has a similar age group, a similar level of students, and to connect with them. And quite often, this is one of the best ways that you as a teacher can do that, to be able to do these joint projects. So I definitely recommend that. And another aspect of the community of practice that the British Council's Teaching English website has, that is held on a regular basis through Facebook, is this Facebook Live. So quite often they're kind of 20 and 30-minute sessions, I think, involving teachers from different countries talking about a particular subject, live discussions. It could be just one teacher, it could be four teachers here. You have, for example, talking about different aspects of teaching and learning. Often they're related to the courses that the British Council is running on the Teaching English website, or something that is topical. And here you can get a snapshot of opinions and different voices from around the world. If you attend them live, then you can put in your questions in the chat in a way that you've been doing today with me, and you can get the live speakers answering your questions when some of them are focused, the panel of educators. You can also go back and watch recordings. So if you're not able to attend these Facebook Lives the moment that they're happening, you can go back and listen to the recordings. Sometimes they could be useful to look at in the same way that the webinars are useful with other teachers. So you might organize a session at your school with a group of teachers in your community of practice at your own school, where you decide, okay, let's look at this recording or the first part of this recording and then have a discussion about what they talk about, what these teachers talk about and discuss. Are they of interest to us? How can we do that? So a lot of it is just trying to take some of the resources that we have available on this community. This is just one example. This is the British Council's Community of Practice for Teachers. There are lots of other communities of practice online. I'm sure you're connected with them. And a lot of how you actually use these resources are down to you. So you don't have to just use them in the way that they're presented. So the publications, for example, are presented as downloadable PDFs that you can go as an individual, download, take away, read, etc. You can watch a webinar on your own. You can watch these Facebook Lives on your own. You can connect in some way. But also remember that you can also establish your own community of practice with your own teachers, or a group online that you connect with in some way, and you decide to set an agenda based on what you're interested in. So you might take some of the resources, a particular publication, a Facebook Live recording. You might suggest that everyone in your own school, for example, in the group of teachers that you have as your own community of practice, why don't we watch this 20-minute Facebook Live on this particular subject and download this article, this lesson plan, and then next week in our break at lunchtime, or in our professional development session, or informally even, let's just talk about it and discuss it, and let's see if we can think about whether these ideas are interesting to put into practice in our own class with our own students. So there's a lot of, the sky's the limit really of how you can take these, if you think of it as a toolkit of resources, a bit like what I talked about at the beginning of this presentation about the CPD framework that the British Council has. It's not meant to be used in a particular way. It's there for you to use in whatever way you want. So in other words, it's a framework. These resources, think of them as a toolkit of things that you as teachers can take and use, download, share, and talk about, discuss with other teachers. You can use these websites as ways of connecting with other teachers in different parts of the world. You can try to create projects together. The sky is the limit, really. It's up to you as teachers in your own context and during the your own community of practice to decide what to do with them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the end of my presentation for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope some of the things that I've said are of interest to you.
Thank you, Graham, for such fabulous presentation. It was just a wealth of insights, resources, and basically inspiration coming from you. Thank you very much once again. And I bet this will be very useful for all teachers who are participating, to whom we should also thank for their active participation during your presentation. So thank you very much again, Graham. We
Thank
hope
you.
to see you in these spaces that we generate in the benefit of Peruvian teachers very
Definitely.
soon, and sharing a similar space.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.